Hello everyone, this is Arisaig Winterthorn. Today I'm coming at you with a quick video. So, I've recently received this one, my first curved hilt saber, and people have been wondering what's the benefit of using a curved hilt over a standard hilt. Why would you go for this if this is so popular? So, we're just going to quickly go over it. So, standard. Now this one is my main. This is the one that you see all the time. So people, one of the main things that you'll see in discussion is, a curved tilt will help you hit different angles. How true is that? So, let's just hold my wrist out just in a general relaxed pattern. You can see the angle that it's hitting. Okay, so my wrist isn't like hyperextended or anything. It's just a nice relaxed grip. Arm straight, goes forward. Now we switch that over to the curved tilt. You hold it on the curve, because I can't hold it up here just because there's all these greeblies in place. So it does generally force you to hold it down here. I can hold it on this more straight section, but this bend is where it holds. Exact same grip. Not hyperextended. It's a relaxed grip with a straight arm. You see, exact same grip will offer a much more straight hold, so it holds your blade straight in front of you rather than slightly upwards. Now there is a benefit to having it slightly upwards because you're directly in the face of your opponents, but this does hold them at hold them much further away so that they are able to hold it. Now when you strike, you can hold it slightly more back, and if you hyperextend, you're able to get these much straighter thrusts. So you're able to go right over your opponent's blade. Rather than using this, you're going to have to extend your grip way over. Okay, so just switched around some camera angles just so I have the grass to stand on so I'm not grinding my feet. So with the curved tilt, as we're saying, you can hyperextend, you can go further near the pommel and you're able to get a much more straight thrust. Because with a standard hilt, we're going to switch that around. Also this setup allows me to quickly have them on hand. To get that, you have to extend the hilt up above the arm. And it's not like a big problem, you can do that. But also, I find the grip has to be so much more open to get that. If I'm just holding it normally, you can get that, but you're like really locking the arm, really locking the wrist up. When you're doing it with the curved tilt, you can hold it properly and get that with much less of a hyperextension. And then if you're holding way back, you're able to get these wrapping cuts where you can get way over your opponent's guard, and you can get that on the ankles, and you can get that underneath. Like, yes, it requires holding way back, but you can also hold here and get that in a much more simple way. I don't know. I'm like struggling for words right now. Now you're like, okay, well, that requires holding way back. What if I hold it more forward? Now when I hold it more forward, it is a much straighter section, but that means I can go back to what I'm used to with my standard and then slide back. So I can go my block, slide back, hit with the bend, and then back into something that I'm more comfortable with for my blocks, block, curve. Now, that sounds great, having that type of advantage. Now, you can use the 2-grip, as we see Dooku use quite typically. You can use that for more control, which I would recommend, just because it just takes, because here's the thing, when you're holding it that far back, the blade goes up to about here in the hilt. So you have whatever length this is. So this is 32 inch. So with the so it's about a 30 inch out of the pommel, and then you have all this metal here. Now this is, I do love this emitter, it looks really great, but it is quite heavy. So it's a lot on the wrist, but I also find it's mostly on the bicep and the deltoid and tricep, not so much the bicep, just because you're trying to control it so much. Like, yeah, the wrist gets sore, but that's with any martial arts equipment. You're going to get a little bit sore. So yeah, that is one of the downsides, is you have to hold it back. Even if this was perfectly flat and I could hold it all the way up here, one, I'm losing the curve if I do that, and two, one, you lose the curve, and two, like, it's really not how it's meant to be used. But when you're using a straight one, you do lose that curve, but it is more designed, like, you're able to hold it at a much better place, because same thing, the blade goes into about here, this center line, and I'm able to hold it here. So this is a much longer blade, a 34, but I feel a much better balance because I have much more weight back here rather than forward. So it's the polar opposite to this one, but with the exact same grip, you can see that the angle is much more different. Now, these are both heavy grade blades. This one's a JQ and this one's a Saber Forge blade. But you can see, even with the exact same grip, stand a much more flat stance, you can see that the angle hits in a much, like, not that much, but overall, you're going to see a difference. If I did hold it the same, you would see the same. But if I'm holding at the bend with the exact same grip, you're going to see some serious difference in how it's going to come in on your opponent. So overall, it's really just a matter of a slight angle, and like, maybe it's not for everybody. I do want to get used to using one of these just because I think it would benefit me. Using this, like, just because of how heavy it is and the angle. Going back to using this thing feels, it's the exact same thing back when I was using my pike extension all the time. I went back to using just a standard, and it's like, this thing feels like it weighs nothing. Most of the weight is in the blade. It's really crazy how these things work. And for people who are aspiring to train with a saber, push your comfort limits, change up what you're using, so that when you go back to what you're used to using, you'll be surprised how easy it is to use. Because I've been using this one for a couple weeks now. You get you don't have to get that much practice in, but you get used to these really crazy angles and the weight, and then you go back to your main and the weight becomes drastically different, and you're able to control better. Also, this one I very much designed for the two-handed grip, so to have better control with this arm, and then basically using this arm as a stopping point to make everything a bit more flicky. You can even go back to my previous videos to before I had this curved hilt, and then just 2 weeks later, going back and using Dijamso on this one. My strikes are very boom, 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 boom. Because this thing, like, I honestly feel like I'm, like, trying to control it, because I feel like if I'm going to, I really don't have any words for this today. What's the word? I just feel like it's very floaty now, rather than heavy. When I first started getting into sabering, this saber, even though it was very different, I had the dissident emitter and a flat pommel, I felt like it was very heavy, even though it was a lot smaller. Now it's bigger, heavier, bulkier, a longer blade, and I feel like it weighs nothing. Honestly, I wish I could go back to my younger self and show myself, like, hey, by the way, this is going to get easier, and you're going to be able to use a bulky thing like this with next to no issue. So, yeah, that's just my thoughts. People have been asking, like, now that I have a curve, like, what are my thoughts? Is it really worth it? And, like, it really depends. What's your style? I always thought like it was like, oh, people like, oh, you have to, if you want to get into Makashi, you have to use a curved hilt, but your curved hilt are for Makashi, blah blah blah, a hoity-toity. That's my hot take on some Makashi users. And yes, a curved hilt is really much designed for dueling. I think, like, yeah, this, like, if you're classically trained for longsword, yes, go with the standard. But if you want to get into like proper dueling, I almost want to get a light speed blade, the 3/4 inch blade, just to see how that would feel in this, because that would take a lot of the weight off the end. Because this is a 1-inch thick-walled blade. Some of my videos so far I've been using a thin-walled blade, but it's still a 1-inch. It's still quite thick around. But yeah, like I can see the benefit of using this. You're going to come in at these strange angles, but it's not something. I don't imagine anyone worth their salt would be thrown off by that. This is really just for the benefit of the user. So it's like, ooh, it throws off the opponent because they're not going to expect it. Yeah, but if somebody comes in like this, I'm still going to block like this. I'm still going to block like that. Like if an opponent came in like this, yeah, the angle's going to be different, but if I'm blocking like this, it's still going to stop. Like, you'd have to be so close for that angle to really hit, because I don't know. I just don't feel like it's like anything extreme, crazy, that it would give you an insane edge. Overall, if you're good at using a curved hilt, you're going to be good at using a curved hilt. Just the same as somebody who's extremely good at using a standard hilt is going to be extremely good at using a standard hilt. It's their preferred medium, but I don't think it's so. I don't know, maybe it's me being a bit of a snob, but I feel like standard hilts, like the straight standard hilt, is so popular and so widespread for a reason. This is what it's like, it's so natural. This is from a kid. Like, you pick up a stick off the ground, aha, it's a sword, and it's straight. You don't go and be like, oh, I have to find one with just the right curve, and it has to be perfect. I do love this. I do plan on getting good with this, just because I like how the weight is balanced, and the workout it gives me, and the type of form it encourages. But overall, it's nothing crazy. So that's just my thoughts. I hope to hear your thoughts, but overall, I just don't see them as anything crazy. Like, I could do Makashi with this, and I have done Makashi with this. It's literally just a matter of that tiny angle. Is that really worth the snobbery? In my opinion, not really. Yes, like the philosophy of Makashi, like, because I don't view Makashi as like, ooh, it's rapier fighting with a lightsaber. No, I view it like, especially if you're watching the Clone Wars and all that, and the movies, you'll see Dooku, like, because Dooku is one of the main Makashi users that we see, and he'll like do all these huge two-handed moves, rather than do like, ooh, do, like, he'll do these like crazy two-handed moves. That's not rapier fighting. That becomes something else. So what does it become? What I see, and also Asajj uses Form 2 technically, and she always has her sabers like behind her. She'll have like both her sabers behind her, and then like come in with for something else. What I see is it's a matter of controlling the opponent, because it's designed to fight a person with a lightsaber. And the goal is to really not get hit. It doesn't matter if you're hitting your opponent. The goal is to, you know, walk away with your life. So, as I see it, the point is to control your opponent, to keep your opponent where you want them. And holding it further back grants you that much more distance. You're able to keep your opponent at a distance. And also, because your blade's not here, rather it's here, they can't comfortably stand right here. They have to stand slightly further back to stay well outside your effective striking distance. So it controls where your opponent's going to be. So if I was using this against a person using this, I would want to stay slightly further away, just because I know that they can lunge a little faster because their blade's already in the thrusting position with next to no it at a comfortable grip. But still, it's still the same medium. It's still the blade. I'm still able to hit it, block it to the side, and then I can come in exactly the same as I would with really any other saber. I don't know. It's great. I like, if you're good with one of these, awesome. All the more power to you. But I still cannot understand the people that say that you have to have a curved hilt for Makashi. It's nice, but not necessary. I think it's really just because people see Dooku using a curved hilt and they're like, aha, he used this form too and uses a curved saber. Ooh, he must. That means everyone must use a curved hilt when they. Sindralik was the battlemaster at the time of the fall of the Jedi Order, which means he was a master of all the forms. Now, he may not have been as good as Dooku, but Dooku focused very much on Form 2, and he had this snobbery saying that it's better to focus on one form rather than any just all the forms, which I guess makes sense. Master one thing, then be an expert at all. But Sindralik used a standard saber, and he was able to perform Makashi at a level that put him as a instructor for all the forms to a point where he was given the Battlemaster title. So there has to be a benefit to this over this for... It's just, this is more versatile, this is very, like... You could use this for all the forms. Like, there's nothing against that. I just don't see it. Like, as I said, I'm going to get used to this, and I'm going to get good at this, for the purpose of training to get better with this. Because as I said, this thing now feels like it weighs nothing. The weight difference is incredible. When I hold it up here, the weight becomes the same. Like, I can feel both exactly the same. But having to hold it here, I feel a lot more, like, especially right up here on my arm. Doing this with this one, and then doing the exact same movement with this one. This, I don't feel anything on this. This is perfectly balanced for me. This one is, like, it's because you have to hold it further back, there's a lot more weight forward. Now, even if you were to say lightsaber blades are supposed to be weightless, which they aren't, there's so much evidence to say that the lightsaber blade, once it projects, actually does have its own weight. Now, some people say it's a gyroscopic effect. No, I think they actually do have weight, because even with a gyroscopic effect, the way they move dictates that there has to be some sort of weight to the blade. I don't know how that would work. Whatever, we'll figure it out. It doesn't really have to be explained. It's a space fantasy, so whatever. So let's say there is no weight. Let's say, for the sake of argument, there is no weight. There's still a lot more metal forward. Like, look at the difference there. Hands at the same height. There's so much more metal in front. This thing, like, it weighs next to nothing, and then I have all this counterbalance to it. You got a nice heavy pommel, all this metal hilt, all the electronics, the battery. The battery for this is here, and then but you have, like, all this, and then all the heavy metal, and then the shroud. Which, by the way, the shroud on this thing, it's really chunky, but my goodness. The profile on it is so pretty. Yeah, so I don't want to make this too long. My goodness, we're almost at like 18 minutes. So yeah, I've rambled on long enough. Curved hilts, fun. Standard hilts, more versatile, for all the forms. This, it could throw somebody off feasibly, but if somebody knows what they're doing, it's not going to throw them off. Like, it's like when you see those Chinese sabers that have, like, sort of like this, but they have those big tassels, and they're like, oh, it's designed to throw them the opponent off. Who's going to get thrown off by tassels? You know where the blade is. So I don't know. Especially with glowing blades like this, like getting thrown off. Like, how are you gonna get thrown off? It's literally showing you exactly where it is. It's hard to lose it. I don't know. My thoughts. I still love this thing. I'm still gonna get good with it, but I don't get the Makashi snobbery that you'll see out there. It's fun. That's it. It's a glow stick. Thank you all for watching.